The worst mistake I have ever made wasn't marrying the wrong person, losing money, or trusting someone I shouldn't have. It was keeping a promise. A promise my wife made me swear to just 3 weeks before she disappeared. She looked me straight in the eyes, squeezed my hand so tightly it hurt, and whispered, "No matter what happens, let Lily hate me." I laughed. I actually laughed because I thought she was trying to lighten the mood after another exhausting day at the hospital. She didn't smile back. "I mean it, Ethan." I remember shaking my head. "Sarah, what are you talking about? If I leave, don't tell her why." I stared at her for several seconds, waiting for her to explain. She never did. 3 weeks later, she was gone. She left one handwritten note on our kitchen table. "Don't look for me." Our daughter read it once before throwing it across the room. She abandoned us. I wanted to tell her the truth. God, I wanted to. Instead, I heard myself say nothing. For the next 2 years, Lily hated her mother. And every single day, I hated myself. If I had broken that promise, maybe my daughter would have gotten to say goodbye. Maybe she wouldn't have spent years believing her own mother chose to walk away from her. Maybe I wouldn't still wake up at 3 in the morning hearing Sarah's last words over and over again. Promise me. I wish I had said no. But to explain why I didn't, I have to go back to the day when none of us knew our entire lives were about to fall apart. Back then, life was wonderfully ordinary. Sarah taught 3rd grade at a small elementary school, 15 minutes from our house. Every afternoon, she'd come home with glitter somewhere on her clothes, construction paper stuck in her bag, and at least one ridiculous story about something one of her students had said. "You'll never guess what Mason asked me today." She'd laugh while kicking off her shoes. "What now?" He wanted to know if teachers sleep at school. "What did you tell him?" "I told him we all hang upside down like bats after the students leave." I'd laugh. She'd laugh even harder. Then she'd tell me Mason believed her completely. That was Sarah. She had this way of making everyone around her feel lighter. Our daughter Lily had inherited the same laugh. She was 19, halfway through her first year of college, and somehow still came home almost every weekend. Not because she had to, because she wanted to. Friday nights were sacred in our house. Sarah cooked, I grilled. Lily complained that we made too much food every single time. "You know there are only 3 of us, right?" she'd say while staring at enough pasta to feed 8 people. Sarah would shrug. "What if someone shows up hungry?" "No one ever shows up. You never know. You've been saying that for 20 years. And one day I'll be right." It became our joke. Even when nobody visited, Sarah packed leftovers into containers and drove them to an elderly couple who lived 4 streets away. She never told anyone. I only found out because one afternoon I followed her after work, thinking she'd forgotten something at the grocery store. Instead, I watched her knock on an old man's door carrying 2 warm containers of lasagna. When she got back into the car, I pretended I hadn't seen anything. That was just who she was. She loved people quietly. Not for attention. Not because anyone asked. Simply because she couldn't imagine doing anything else. Looking back now, I keep wondering if that's why none of us noticed how much she was hiding. Or maybe we noticed, we just explained everything away. It started with tiny things. Sarah began falling asleep on the couch before 10. "Long week," she'd mumble. She started leaving half her dinner untouched. "I'm just not that hungry tonight." She stopped asking me to go on our evening walks. "You go ahead. I'll catch up tomorrow." Tomorrow never came. One Saturday morning, I found her standing in the kitchen with both hands pressed against the counter. "You okay?" She looked up quickly. "Yeah. You sure?" I got dizzy for a second. I walked over. "Maybe you should sit down." "I'm fine." "You don't look fine," she smiled. "You know what your problem is?" "What?" "You worry too much. I married you. That's literally part of the job description." She laughed. "There she is," I said. "What?" "Your laugh. I was starting to miss it." She rolled her eyes. "I've been awake for 20 minutes. And already making me nervous. I'm alive. You promise?" She reached over and kissed my forehead. "I promise." Funny how certain words sound completely different after everything falls apart. A week later, Lily came home for the weekend. She hugged Sarah, then immediately stepped back. "Mom." "What?" "You've lost weight." Sarah looked down at herself. "Have I?" "Definitely. I've just been busy." Lily frowned. "When was the last time you saw your doctor?" "Oh no." "What?" "I know that face." "What face?" "The I'm about to lecture my mother face. You should get checked." "I'm fine, Mom. I'm fine." Lily looked at me. "Dad?" I shrugged. "I've tried." "So neither of you is actually doing anything." Sarah clapped her hands once. Okay, new rule. There are rules now? No medical conversations during dinner. Mom, rule. Lily sighed dramatically. You two are impossible. Dinner continued. We laughed, watched a movie, played cards until almost midnight. If someone had walked into our house that night, they would have thought we were one of the happiest families in the world. Maybe we were. Maybe that's what made what happened next so much harder. The following Tuesday, I was halfway through a meeting when my phone vibrated. Sarah. She almost never called me during school hours. I smiled, excused myself, and answered. Hey, everything okay? Silence, then breathing. Heavy breathing. Sarah? Ethan. Her voice barely sounded like hers. I don't feel. Something crashed. People started shouting in the background. Then I heard a woman scream my wife's name, and the call disconnected. I don't remember driving to the school. To this day, I couldn't tell you which roads I took, whether I stopped at red lights, or how fast I was going. All I remember is gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white while replaying the last 10 seconds of that phone call, over and over again. Ethan, the crash, people screaming. Then nothing. I must have called Sarah back 20 times before I reached the school. Straight to voicemail. Every time. By the time I pulled into the parking lot, 2 ambulances were already there. Teachers stood outside in small groups, whispering to one another. Children were being led back inside by crying staff members. The moment I jumped out of the truck, the school principal spotted me. Ethan. She hurried toward me, her face pale. Where's Sarah? They've taken her to St. Mary's. What happened? We're not completely sure. What do you mean you're not sure? She collapsed during class. Collapsed. One of the students said she looked dizzy, tried to grab her desk and just fell. My stomach dropped. Was she conscious? For a few seconds. And now? She hesitated. I don't know. That was enough. I ran back to my truck before she could say another word. The hospital was only 12 minutes away. It felt like an hour. The emergency room was chaos. Phones ringing. Doctors rushing between rooms. Patients everywhere. I almost tripped over a wheelchair trying to reach the front desk. My wife was just brought in by ambulance from Lincoln Elementary. The receptionist typed quickly. Name, Sarah Walker. A few seconds passed. I see her. My heart jumped. Can I see her? They're still evaluating her. What happened? I'm sorry, sir. The doctor will speak with you as soon as possible. I just need to know if she's alive. The woman finally looked up at me. She is. I closed my eyes. For the first time since the phone call, I could actually breathe. Barely. 20 minutes later, Lily burst through the hospital entrance. She was still wearing her college backpack. Her hair was a mess, and she was breathing so hard I knew she'd been running. Dad, I stood. She hugged me so tightly I thought she was going to break my ribs. What happened? I don't know. You don't know? They won't tell me anything. She stepped back. You said Mom collapsed. That's all I know. She looked toward the double doors leading into the emergency department. Can we go in? They won't let us. For nearly an hour, that was our entire conversation. Questions. No answers. Every time those doors opened, both of us looked up. Every single time, it was someone else. Eventually, Lily sat beside me and whispered, She's going to be okay. I wanted to believe her. I know. You don't sound convinced. I'm trying. She grabbed my hand. You always tell me not to panic until we know the facts. I know. So I'm trying to listen to my own advice. She gave a weak smile. Mom's going to make fun of us for overreacting. I forced a laugh. She probably will. I can already hear her. Seriously? You two thought I was dying. For one brief moment, I almost believed that's exactly how this would end. Then a doctor walked through the doors. Mr. Walker? I stood so quickly, my chair tipped over. Yes. I'm Dr. Mitchell. How is she? Your wife is stable. Stable. That word felt like a lifeline. Can I see her? In a few minutes. What happened? We're still running tests. So you don't know. We know why she collapsed. What is it? He glanced at Lily, then back at me. Has your wife been unusually tired lately? Yes. Lost weight? Yes. Dizziness? Yes. Less appetite? Yes. The doctor's expression changed. It wasn't panic. It was recognition. Like the answers I was giving fit together into a picture he had already seen too many times before. When did all of this start? A couple of months ago. And she never came in? I looked down. No, Dr. Mitchell nodded slowly. We've done some blood work and a CT scan. What did you find? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked at Lily. I'd like to speak with your father privately for just a moment. Lily frowned. Why? It's routine. No, she said. Whatever you're going to tell him, you can tell me too. The doctor remained silent. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. Finally, he sighed. All right. He folded his hands together. The scan showed something we weren't expecting. My mouth went dry. What kind of something? We found a large mass. Neither Lily nor I spoke. The hallway suddenly felt impossibly quiet. We don't know exactly what it is yet, Dr. Mitchell continued. There are several possibilities, and we need more imaging and a biopsy before we can say anything definitive. So it might not be cancer, Lily asked immediately. It might not be. That single sentence gave us hope. Tiny. Fragile. But hope. Then he added 7 words that I have never forgotten. But we have to prepare for that possibility. Sarah looked at both of us and immediately knew something was wrong. You could see it in her face before a single word was spoken. She'd spent years reading children's expressions in her classroom. She could read ours just as easily. What? She asked quietly. Nobody answered. Dr. Mitchell pulled a chair closer to her bed and sat down. We found a mass during your CT scan. Sarah didn't panic. She didn't cry. She just blinked once. Okay. We don't know exactly what it is yet. So you're saying, we need a biopsy? The room became painfully quiet. Sarah slowly turned toward me. I guess Lily was right. Lily frowned. What? You kept telling me to see a doctor. She forced the smallest smile. I should have listened. Lily immediately grabbed her mother's hand. Don't do that. What? Don't start blaming yourself. I'm not. Yes, you are. Sarah squeezed her daughter's fingers. I'm going to be okay. I noticed something then. Sarah wasn't trying to convince herself. She was trying to convince Lily. The biopsy was scheduled for the next morning. We barely slept that night. Sarah kept pretending everything was normal. She joked with nurses, asked one of them where they bought the terrible hospital coffee, laughed when nobody else did. At one point she looked at me. They're all looking at me like I'm already dying. They're not. They are. They're just doing their jobs. She smiled sadly. You know, what? Shh. I always thought hospitals smelled different. What do you mean? I imagined they'd smell scarier. I laughed quietly. You've officially run out of things to criticize. Oh, I still hate the coffee. There she is. My standards remain high. For a few minutes, everything almost felt normal again. The biopsy itself didn't take long. Waiting for the results did. 3 days. 3 endless days. Sarah was allowed to go home while we waited. The doctors said there was no reason to keep her admitted until they had the pathology report. So we tried to live normally, or at least pretend to. Friday night came. Lily insisted on cooking this time. No arguments. Sarah raised an eyebrow. I've created a monster. You created someone who knows how to season chicken. I taught you well. Dinner was awkward, not because anyone wanted it to be, because every few minutes someone would stop talking, as if we all remembered the same thing at the same time. Monday. The results. Nobody wanted to say it out loud. That night, after Lily went upstairs, Sarah and I sat on the back porch. The summer air was warm. Cicadas buzzed in the distance. She rested her head on my shoulder. You know what I miss? What? Being bored. I looked at her. What? A week ago, my biggest problem was deciding what to make for dinner. She laughed softly. I'd give anything to worry about that again. I wrapped my arm around her. We're going to get through this. You don't know that. I do. You can't. I have to. She stayed quiet. Then she whispered, I'm scared. Those were the first honest words she'd spoken since collapsing. Not to the doctors, not to Lily, just to me. I kissed the top of her head. So am I. She closed her eyes. Promise me something. My heart skipped. Anything. If this turns out to be cancer, it won't. Ethan, it won't. She lifted her head. I need you to listen. I nodded. If it is, don't let Lily stop living her life. What? Don't let her quit school. Sarah, promise me something. My heart skipped. Anything. If this turns out to be cancer, it won't. Ethan, it won't. She lifted her head. I need you to listen. I nodded. If it is. Dr. Mitchell didn't answer immediately. That terrified me more than anything he could have said. He looked down at Sarah's chart, took a slow breath, then met her eyes again. I don't know. Nobody moved. The cancer is aggressive, but we still need additional scans before we know whether it has spread. Sarah nodded once. So there's still a chance. There is. Can it be treated? Yes. Cured? Another pause. We're going to do everything we possibly can. It wasn't the answer she had asked for. She knew it. So did we. The next week disappeared into a blur of appointments. MRI, PET scan, blood tests, more blood tests, consultations with surgeons, consultations with oncologists. By the third hospital visit, Lily had stopped asking questions. She simply carried a notebook and wrote everything down. Medication names, appointment times, phone numbers. At one point, Sarah smiled at her. What are you doing? I'll forget something. You've always been your father's daughter. I learned from the best. Sarah laughed softly. No. What? You learned from the one who panics. Lily looked at me. Dad. I object. You color code the grocery list. That's organization. You alphabetize the spice cabinet. That was one time. It was 3. Sarah laughed harder than she had in days. For a few precious seconds, she sounded like herself again. Then the oncologist called. We've reviewed all of your scans. Those words changed everything. The cancer hadn't stayed where it started. It had already spread. Not everywhere, but enough. Dr. Mitchell pulled up the images on the screen. I wish I had better news. Sarah stared quietly at the scans. Lily looked away. I couldn't stop staring. The white spots on the monitor suddenly felt bigger than the room itself. What does this mean? I asked. It means surgery alone isn't enough. So what's next? We begin chemotherapy immediately. Immediately? The sooner the better. Sarah nodded before anyone else spoke. When do we start? Monday. Today was Friday. Our lives had just been divided into 2 parts, before Monday, and everything after it. The first treatment lasted almost 6 hours. Sarah insisted she didn't need anyone there. All 3 of us showed up anyway. I said one person. Lily smiled. We voted. You voted? It was unanimous. You 2 cheat. We learned from Mom. The nurse smiled as she connected the IV. I'll be back in a few minutes. As soon as she left, Sarah looked around the treatment room. There were almost 20 other patients, some sleeping, some reading, some staring blankly out the window. One elderly man gave Sarah a small wave. She smiled back, then leaned toward me. I don't belong here. I squeezed her hand. Neither does anyone else. She nodded. I know, but I could see it in her face. For the first time, she wasn't thinking about getting better. She was wondering whether she ever would. The side effects came fast. The nausea, the exhaustion, the headaches. Some mornings she couldn't even finish brushing her teeth before she had to sit down. Still, every afternoon she'd ask me the same question. Did Lily eat? Yes. Are you sure? I'm looking at the empty plate. Good. Even on her worst days, she worried about everyone except herself. 3 weeks into treatment, I walked into our bedroom and found Sarah sitting on the floor. She was holding her hairbrush. Without saying a word, she turned it around. The bristles were completely covered in long strands of brown hair. Neither of us spoke. She brushed once more. Another handful came out. She looked at me. I knew this part was coming. I slowly sat beside her. It doesn't make it easier. She shook her head. No. A single tear rolled down her cheek. I don't recognize myself anymore. I wrapped my arms around her. You don't have to. She buried her face against my shoulder and cried. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly. Like someone mourning a person who is still alive. That evening Lily came home from college. She immediately understood what had happened. She looked at the hairbrush, then at her mom. Without saying anything, she disappeared upstairs. 5 minutes later she came back carrying electric clippers. Sarah frowned. What are those for? Lily knelt in front of her. If you're going through this, you're not doing it alone. What are you talking about? Lily smiled through tears. I'm cutting yours. She turned the clippers on. And then you're cutting mine. Sarah's eyes instantly filled with tears. No. Yes. You absolutely are not shaving your head because of me. I'm not doing it because of you. Then why? Because I don't want you looking in the mirror and feeling like you're fighting this by yourself. Sarah broke down crying. So did I. An hour later, both of them were sitting on the couch wearing matching knitted beanies, laughing, taking ridiculous selfies, making jokes about who looked stranger. It was the happiest I'd seen our family since the diagnosis, which made what happened 4 days later even harder to accept. Dr. Mitchell walked into the examination room holding the first post-treatment scan. He wasn't smiling anymore. Dr. Mitchell closed the door behind him before saying a single word. That alone made my stomach drop. He'd never done that before. Every appointment until then had followed the same routine. He'd smile, ask Sarah how she was feeling, review the blood work, Talk about the next treatment. This time, he walked in carrying the scan, sat down, folded his hands, and stayed silent. Sarah looked at him for a long moment. It didn't work. It wasn't a question. He exhaled slowly. We're not seeing the response we were hoping for. Lily immediately leaned forward. What does that mean? The tumors haven't shrunk. Okay, she said quickly. Then you changed the medication, right? We're discussing other treatment options. That's not what I asked. Dr. Mitchell looked at her with the kind of expression doctors wear when they're trying to answer honestly without taking away every ounce of hope. There are other chemotherapy combinations. So we try those. Yes. And they'll work? I hope they will. Hope. Not confidence. Hope. I watched Sarah. She wasn't looking at the doctor anymore. She was staring at the scan on his desk, almost like she was trying to memorize it. The next round of treatment was even harder. Sarah barely had enough strength to walk from the bedroom to the living room. She stopped pretending she felt okay. Instead, she'd simply say, "Today's a bad day." Some days she couldn't even keep water down. Other days she'd wake up feeling almost normal. Those good mornings became our favorite part of the week, because they never lasted. One Saturday she surprised me. I want pancakes. I looked up from my coffee. Pancakes? With blueberries. You've been saying food makes you sick. It does. So why pancakes? Because I suddenly want pancakes. I stood up immediately. I'll make pancakes. No. What? I'm making them. Sarah, I've made breakfast in this house for 20 years. You don't have to prove anything. I'm not proving anything. She smiled. I just want one more normal morning. Those words hit me harder than anything she'd said since the diagnosis. One more. Not many more. Not next year. One more. So I let her. She moved slowly around the kitchen, stopped twice to catch her breath, nearly dropped the bowl once. Still, she smiled through all of it. Lily walked downstairs halfway through. She froze. Mom? Sarah turned around wearing one of Ethan's old oversized t-shirts and flour on her nose. What? You should be in bed. I should be making pancakes. You look exhausted. I look beautiful. You look stubborn. I've always looked stubborn. Lily laughed. I can't even argue with that. For the first time in weeks, breakfast sounded like breakfast again. We joked, burned the first batch, argued about too much syrup. Lily complained that I always made my pancakes too thick. Sarah insisted hers were perfect. When we finished eating, she leaned back in her chair and quietly said, I've missed this. None of us answered, because we all knew exactly what she meant. A few days later, I came home from work earlier than usual. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I found Sarah sitting alone in Lily's bedroom. She was holding one of Lily's childhood photo albums. She hadn't noticed me standing in the doorway. She smiled at a picture of 5-year-old Lily covered in finger paint, then turned another page. Another. She wasn't crying. She was memorizing. I finally spoke. What are you doing? She looked up quickly. Oh, I didn't hear you come in. I can see that. She closed the album gently. Her voice faded. What? I was wondering how she grew up so fast. I sat beside her. She still needs you. Sarah smiled sadly. I know. No. I took her hand. I don't think you do. She looked at me. You still think she's that little girl who cried because she lost her favorite stuffed rabbit. I remember that. You searched the entire neighborhood. It was under her bed. Sarah laughed. For 6 hours. You helped. I knew where it was. I stared at her. You what? I knew where it was. I stared at her. You what? What? I found it after 10 minutes. I couldn't help laughing. You let me search for 6 hours? I wanted you to feel like the hero. I shook my head. You're unbelievable. I know. Then her smile disappeared. I always wanted you two to have memories like that. What do you mean? She looked back at the photo album. The kind that make people smile years later. Something about the way she said it made my chest tighten. Like she wasn't talking about the past. She was talking about the future. Another scan was scheduled the following week. Dr. Mitchell didn't even try to hide his concern anymore. The treatment had slowed part of the disease, but another area had continued growing. He recommended an experimental immunotherapy program. It isn't guaranteed. Nothing is, Sarah answered quietly. It may give us more time. More time. That phrase echoed in my head. Not cure. Not recovery. Time. As we walked toward the parking lot, Lily suddenly stopped. I'm taking next semester off. Sarah turned immediately. No, I'm not asking. I know. I'm telling you. No, Mom. You are not throwing away college because I'm sick. It's one semester. It's your future. My future can wait. Sarah's voice became firmer than I'd heard in weeks. Absolutely not. I don't care. I do. I'm not leaving you. Sarah stepped closer. You are not staying because you're afraid. I'm staying because I love you. I know. Then why are you fighting me? Because one day. She stopped herself. Lily frowned. One day what? Sarah forced a smile. One day you'll understand. That answer only made Lily angrier. I don't want to understand. You will. I don't care about school right now. I do. You matter more. Sarah suddenly grabbed Lily's shoulders. So listen to me. Her voice cracked. If something happens to me, it won't. If something happens, you keep living. Lily burst into tears. Stop saying that. I need you to hear me. I don't want to. Sarah pulled her into the tightest hug I'd ever seen. I love you more than anything. I know. No. Sarah closed her eyes. I need you to remember that. Watching them, I realized Sarah wasn't preparing for treatment anymore. She was preparing Lily. And that terrified me far more than the cancer ever had. Because for the first time since all of this began, I started wondering whether my wife already knew something that the rest of us didn't. The next morning, Sarah asked me to drive her somewhere. Not to the hospital, not to the treatment center, somewhere else. She was already dressed when I came downstairs. A light blue sweater, jeans, the knitted beanie Lily had bought her. She looked exhausted, but there was determination in her eyes I hadn't seen in weeks. Where are we going? I asked. You'll see. Sarah, it's important. I wanted to argue. Instead, I grabbed my keys. She directed me across town without saying much. Left. Straight. Another left. Then she finally pointed toward a quiet neighborhood I hadn't visited in years. We're almost there. A few minutes later, I pulled into the parking lot of a children's park. I looked at her. The park. She nodded. Our park. I smiled despite everything. When Lily was little, we'd spent almost every Saturday there. Sarah would push her on the swings until her arms hurt. I'd pretend I was too old to climb the jungle gym. Lily would prove me wrong every single time. Now the playground looked smaller than I remembered. Almost empty. Just one little boy chasing pigeons while his mother watched from a bench. Sarah stared through the windshield for nearly a minute. I haven't been here in years. I know. I wanted to come back. I helped her out of the truck. Walking from the parking lot to the nearest bench couldn't have been more than 50 yards. She had to stop twice. Each time she smiled at me before I could ask if she was okay. I just need a second. By the time we reached the bench, she was breathing heavily. We sat in silence, watching children laugh in the distance. Finally she spoke. You know what my favorite memory is? Which one? The day Lily learned to ride her bike. I laughed. She crashed into the mailbox. Sarah laughed too, twice. You told her falling meant she was doing it right. It did. You had to pull leaves out of her hair. And 10 minutes later she was trying again. Sarah watched a little girl race across the playground. I always hoped she'd grow up brave. She did. I know. Another long silence. Then Sarah reached into her purse. She pulled out a small white envelope. No name. Nothing written on the outside. Keep this. What is it? Don't open it. I looked at her. When it's time. What does that mean? You'll know. I slipped the envelope into my jacket. It felt heavier than paper should. On the drive home, neither of us spoke. For the first time since the diagnosis, the silence didn't feel uncomfortable. It felt final. That scared me. 2 days later, Sarah's oncologist called. The immunotherapy wasn't working. Not fast enough. The cancer was still progressing. There were no more standard treatments left. Dr. Mitchell recommended transferring her to a palliative care team. I hated those words. Palliative care. They sounded like surrender. Sarah didn't react. She simply thanked him, then hung up the phone. That's it, I whispered. She nodded. I think so. No. Ethan, we'll find another hospital. There isn't one. We'll go somewhere else. She smiled sadly. I've already looked. You looked? Months ago. I stared at her. You knew? I hoped I was wrong. She reached for my hand. I wanted to spend whatever time I had left living. Not chasing miracles. Living. That evening Lily came home carrying groceries. I bought everything for taco night. She walked into the kitchen smiling, then stopped. She looked from me to Sarah, back to me. What happened? Neither of us answered. Mom? Sarah forced a smile. The doctor says the treatment isn't helping anymore. Lily's grocery bag slipped from her hands. An avocado rolled across the floor. No. We're going to focus on keeping me comfortable. No. Lily? No. She shook her head violently. There has to be something. We've tried everything. We haven't tried everywhere. Sarah walked over as fast as she could and held her face between both hands. Listen to me. I'm not listening. You have to. I'm not losing you. Tears streamed down Sarah's face. I know. No, you don't. Lily cried so hard she could barely breathe. I still need my mom. Sarah pulled her into a hug. I know, sweetheart. You promised you'd beat this. I wanted to. You promised. I know. I had never heard my daughter sound so young. Not since she was a child waking up from nightmares. Sarah held her until she finally stopped shaking. Then she kissed the top of her head. I need you to go back to college next week. Lily immediately pulled away. What? I mean it. I'm not leaving. You are. No. Sarah's voice became firmer. Yes. I'm staying here. You have your whole life ahead of you. I don't care. I do. I choose you. And I choose your future. The room fell silent. Sarah looked at me. Ethan. I knew that look. She wanted us alone. Lily, I said softly. Can you give us a minute? I don't want to. Please. She hesitated, then slowly walked upstairs. The moment we heard her bedroom door close, Sarah sat down at the kitchen table. She looked exhausted, more exhausted than I'd ever seen her. She reached across the table and took both of my hands. Ethan. What? I need one last promise. My stomach tightened. No. You don't even know what I'm going to ask. I don't care. I can't promise anything. She looked directly into my eyes. If I leave before Lily is ready, let her hate me. I stared at her. What? Don't tell her I was dying. I actually laughed. Not because it was impossible. Absolutely not. Please. No. She'll spend the rest of her life thinking you abandoned her. I know. Sarah, that's insane. I don't want her last memories of me to be hospital beds and morphine. So you'd rather she think you stopped loving her? For a while, I stood up. No. I won't do it. She stood too, swaying slightly before catching herself on the table. Ethan. I said no. She reached for my hands again. She'll heal. No, she won't. She will. Not from this. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. But she will never heal from watching me die a little more every single day. I couldn't speak. She squeezed my hands. I've already arranged everything. What do you mean? When the time comes, I'm going to a hospice. The room spun. A hospice. I don't want Lily to see me at the end. No. I've already made the decision. You don't get to make that decision alone. She looked at me with heartbreaking calm. I already did. Then she whispered the words that would haunt me for years. Promise me. I should have walked away. I should have argued. I should have told her she was asking me to destroy our daughter's heart. Instead, after what felt like an eternity, I closed my eyes. And I nodded. I promise.